Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kobosko Talks. We have a very special guest today, Gerben-Jan Gerbrandy, a Dutch politician, environmental advocate, member of the European Parliament, his third consecutive term, and the vice president of the Renew Europe group. A staunch Atlanticist and a prominent member of the delegation for relations with the United States, he believes in fostering and strengthening transatlantic ties without compromising on Europe's strategic autonomy. That's a topic I'm particularly keen to discuss today. Gerben-Jan, thanks for accepting my invitation.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
It's always a pleasure to have you and to have an opportunity to discuss with you. Look, there are lots of things happening now and lots of difficult issues that we are dealing. I would love to hear, and my audience would love to hear about how the Dutch think. What do you think about the future of EU-US relations right now? Taking the Dutch history and your strength in trading over the ages, how do you see this perspective of a trade war between EU and the US? So what's the Dutch perspective on what's going on right now?
Yes, well, first of all, it's extremely painful to see what's happening now with the bilateral relations between the US and Europe and the Netherlands. The Dutch have always been extremely transatlantic, and quite often a majority of Dutch people were more interested in relations with the US than with the European integration.
The rest of Europe, yes.
Yes, and that is quite astonishing. The Netherlands has been for decades one of the biggest foreign investors in the US and also the other way around. So the economic ties are very strong. Dutch television has a lot of American shows in the original American language. So young people, they grow up with America, and quite often they are more keen on the American culture than on European culture. So it's very painful to see what's happening. I think that the general mood is to avoid a big clash with the US, but to try to keep the ties as strong as possible, because the US is not just Donald Trump and his people. It's also a lot of other Americans that are not in favor of Donald Trump's policies. So we have to focus on, we have to continue focusing on the US in a positive way as well.
Do you think that we can avoid a full-scale trade war with the US? And if Donald Trump is imposing new tariffs, how we should react?
Yes, well, I hope we can avoid a full trade war, because it's in no one's interest, not in Donald Trump's, not in the US, and certainly not in the European interest. Most experts really don't understand why Donald Trump is so focusing on this tariff issue. But if he continues with this tariff war, we have no choice as Europe. We have to defend our own interests. And many see Donald Trump as someone who is always looking for deals. So we have to do the same as what we did in 2017. We have to put on our own counter tariffs and then try to negotiate, so to get them away as quickly as possible based on mutual understanding.
Everybody today is talking about defense and security and defense, obviously, and EU is taking some initiatives. We have a white paper on defense and security. There is this rearm Europe idea, and then the Dutch reaction is somewhere there. I would love to hear more on the Dutch reaction to these ideas, and basically how the Dutch liberals see the need to increase our spendings on defense and security.
Well, first of all, it's worthwhile to mention that Parliament, including 3 coalition parties, adopted a resolution last week not to be part of the Rearm Europe initiative, especially the common borrowing, and that is a very sensitive thing in the Netherlands. But the current situation, the current geopolitical situation, asks for different solutions. So we should get rid of this old frugal point of view that we are deadly against common borrowing. My party, Liberal Party, D66, has never been deadly against it. We have to be careful, of course, but not against it. This resolution was adopted, and that was, an incredible wake-up call. The good thing is that the Dutch public is strongly in favor of a joint European approach. And the Dutch public seems to be more knowledgeable about what is needed at the moment than 3 of the 4 coalition parties. They did find some kind of deal at the end of last week, that they're still against common borrowing, but for defense in a limited way, it should be possible. But D66 is strongly in favor of a joint army, joint spending on defense, joint public procurement on defense. So we want to go much further in order to be able to defend Europe by ourselves and not only to be depending on the US.
How does the Dutch public see the war in Ukraine? Do you see a kind of a war fatigue among the Dutch society? Because we see this among some societies in Europe. How do you see the support for Europe? Because under Prime Minister Rutte, Netherlands was among the leaders among those countries aiding, helping, supporting Ukraine. Is the situation changing now?
You have to see that the Netherlands is much further from the Russian border than Poland. And when I talk to you or colleagues from the Baltic Sea, Baltic states or Finland, they are much more aware of the huge danger of Russia. And for Dutch people, that is less evident. They do, in large majority, understand the importance of defending Ukraine. And there is a large support for continue supporting Ukraine financially, militarily, etc., etc. On the other hand, the amount of Ukrainian people that fled to the Netherlands is high. It's far lower than in countries like Poland, but still it is high. And I think they are integrated in a very good way. But still, Dutch people in general, I think they would like to see an end to the Ukraine war. At the same time, they don't want Russian army to overtake large parts of Ukraine. So I think in the end they will continue supporting the Western alliance together with Ukraine to fight the Russians.
The Western alliance or the President Trump in his efforts to stop the war, some people say at any price.
Yes, I think a large majority of the Dutch people, they understand that the Trump approach is not the right approach. I have the feeling that Trump wants a deal because that's his promise and he wants to be the big peacekeeper. Yeah. But a deal where Ukraine is forced to give up 20% of its land to Russia is not a deal. That is surrender. And that is something that we should never do. And I think a majority of the Dutch people have that same point of view.
If there's an idea on the table, there is such an idea to send European peacekeepers, our troops, to the border between Ukraine and Russia. Do you think that the Dutch population would be ready to see their troops being deployed there as well?
Well, that's a very important question. Sending money or sending weapons is so much easier than sending your own husbands, sons, or fathers. I think it's good not to be already too active in this debate. I think politicians should not shy away for the opportunity to do so, because Putin should know that we are willing to send our troops in order to help defending Ukraine in what way or another. At the same time, I think we need time to make the general public in the Netherlands ready for such a decision. I myself, I'm certainly willing to go that far. If we want to stop Russia and defend European values, defend European democracy, defend European freedom, we have to be willing to also send Dutch troops to Ukraine. And maybe not in an active war act, but certainly to defend some kind of peace treaty.
Let's hope that there will be a peace treaty at the terms which will be firstly accepted by Ukraine, and they will come also from Ukrainian initiative, not only between America and Russia, because that would be really dangerous for all of us, for all Europeans, including the Dutch population and Polish as well. Gerben-Jan, it was a great pleasure to have you on Kobosko Talks. Thanks so much for this conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thanks so much. And this is it for Kobosko Talk. See you next time. Thank you.